Hi everybody. Today is April the 6th. It is Monday of Holy Week, and we are going to be walking through the events of Jesus' life in this most important of his weeks on earth. The gospel accounts devote anywhere from 25 to over 30% of all of their writings on the last week of Jesus' life. So Monday deals with Jesus cleansing the temple. And let's take a look at this in Mark's gospel. Before we do that, though, let me tell you a little bit about my day. So today is the first day that I have worn a mask to go shopping. And many of the stores up in Chippewa are counting the number of people going in and coming out. It's a lot more severe. And Christina made me a great mask out of a bandana. It was so effective, actually, that when I would try to talk to the people in the store, nobody could understand me, and I either had to point or, that kind of thing. And I'm trying to check out, and I'm doing a self-checkout, and I have fennel that I'm trying to buy, but I have to look it up on the screen, and it doesn't say anything about fennel, so I have to get one of the workers, and they say, "Oh, that's anise," and so she presses the button and it comes up, and then the machine says, "Move your fennel to the belt." All right. And then she basically reprimands me because I've got cloth bags, and even though I'm checking out myself, that's very dangerous. And a month ago they loved me when I brought cloth bags in, and now they hate me. So I'm trying to pull out of the store, and this guy flying along in a Jeep and not particularly caring about social distancing practically drives me off the road. I have to hop up on the curb in order to avoid this guy. And I have to go to 3 stores in order to find the stuff on my list. It made me think of the comment by Ben Peterson, a chaplain at a family camp we'd go to, where he would say, other than the fact that my sins are forgiven and my eternal destiny is secure, I'm not having a very good day. I am really glad that the things that annoy Jesus are far more important than the things that annoy me. So let's take a look at this. Mark chapter 11, verses 15 through 19. And they, meaning Jesus and the disciples, came to Jerusalem, and he entered the temple and began to drive out those who sold and those who bought in the temple. And he overturned the tables of the money changers and the seats of those who sold pigeons. And he would not allow anyone to carry anything through the temple. And he was teaching them and saying to them, "Is it not written, 'My house shall be called a house of prayer for all the nations'? You have made it a den of robbers." And the chief priests and the scribes heard it and were seeking a way to destroy him, for they feared him, because all the crowd was astonished at his teaching. And when evening came, they went out of the city. From the Pharisees and Sadducees' perspective, Jesus driving out the money changers and all of the animals from the outer court, which is where the Gentiles were allowed to come to worship the one true God. For him to do that was to strike a blow at the very heart of the Jewish way of worship. Because if the possibility of sacrificing animals was threatened, then the entire sacrificial system would fall apart. From Jesus' perspective, he recognizes that he is the one true sacrifice. There's no need for other sacrifices to come. And in fact, the true temple that is coming is going to be all those who believe in him. The New Testament calls us living stones, where Christ is the cornerstone. We're actually going to look at that a little bit tomorrow. Jesus' main concern is that the temple could be a house of prayer for all the nations. Those of you who heard my sermon on John's account of Palm Sunday recognize that the crowd took the verses of Psalm 118 and added their own assumed addition, which is that this coronation psalm is about someone who's just going to be the king of Israel. Well, Jesus is concerned about far more than Israel. He's concerned about every tribe and nation, that they would come to recognize him as the King of Kings and the Lord of Lords. When he said, "Destroy this temple and I will raise it again in 3 days," he was talking about something far greater than the temple of stones. He was talking about the temple of his body. And we're going to look at the glory and the majesty of that as we go through this week. 2 wonderful songs for your consideration today. The first comes from Bach's B minor Mass, which gets my vote for the greatest piece of music written ever. We're going to look at the second movement of the Mass. Now, Bach was a Lutheran and never heard this piece that he wrote in bits and starts for many years, never heard it performed from start to finish in his lifetime. But this is basically Bach's version of what C.S. Lewis calls mere Christianity. It is something that is aimed at, for believers in Jesus of every theological stripe. The second movement is Kyrie Eleison, Christ have mercy. The first and the third movements are Lord have mercy, and it's written in very serious, somber, dramatic tones. The stakes are very high. But in the middle movement, Bach writes a duet for 2 sopranos, and indeed, every movement in the Mass having to do with Jesus is written in a duet fashion. And really what Bach is trying to tell us is not only is Jesus the second member of the Trinity, but with these 2 voices singing in a canon form, he's trying to give us musically that Jesus is fully human and fully divine. And both of these things are equal and equally important. It's glorious, it's beautiful, and as we pray for God to have mercy on our condition, this is a song that can cause us to believe that God will answer our prayer. If classical music to a Latin text is a little esoteric for you, our other song today is Andrew Peterson, The Cornerstone. Marvelous piece, in part because Peterson really gets at the very thin line between our daily lives and the lives of the Bible. The Bible wants us to recognize that God is breaking in the same way in our lives all the time. And through Jesus Christ, the cornerstone, he is offering himself in a way that is beyond our control, but he's ready for our embrace. God bless you today.